All right. Good evening or hi, whenever you watch this. I'm taking a walk, but I figured I would make a video while the insight's still fresh, right? Because I was thinking about. I've been rewatching the Q&A on Info Energy, and a close friend of mine was bothered by it, or by how Dave and Shan interpreted it, because they felt that they misunderstood what Ikram and Uzair were saying, right? And so I was like, okay, well, let me TE figure it out, right? NT figure it out, right? Saviors. But one thing I realized, so let me do the recap first. So it took me a while, but I'm realizing that, so what Ikram was saying in the original video that Dave and Shan were responding to, she was claiming that infodoms overprocess information because they don't know who they are in some sense. There's an identity crisis. So people who are sleep last, they overping the tribe for information because they can't see their inner self. And then Uzair was arguing that it was actually kind of the opposite. He was arguing that because he's so concerned about who he is from an internal standpoint, he can't see who he is externally. So in essence, they were claiming that infodoms have an identity crisis at all times, right, by default, and energy doms do not, right? Ikram even went so far as to say energy doms will look at infodoms like, you know who you are, right? Right. Now, Dave and Shan fucking didn't hear that. Like, normally, that's okay, I love them anyway. They went into processing energy doms care about doing shit, right? Energy doms are trying to get things done. And I think they completely did not hear the identity conversation. Fortunately, I guess this is my any, I do believe that these things are correlated in a very deep way, right? In a very, like, old school way even. So I guess my SI is also happy. So when you think about an identity, right? What is an identity? Most people attribute it to, what makes me feel special, significant, right? Anything associated to that human need. And that's all true, right? But on, let's say on a more old school level, when people used to talk about identities, your identity was very much tied to the role you played in the world. So I'm going to give you a few examples. So let's say you are a baker, right? Someone comes into your store and they ask you who you are. And you're like, hey, I am a baker. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that you didn't just assign that identity to yourself for fun. You assign that because you play a certain role, you do certain things in that shop, and those things make you a baker, right? The things that you do make you a baker. Another example, if someone comes up to you, same shop, but all of a sudden they ask you, who are you? And you say, I am the cashier. What does that mean? It's not like you said that for fun. You are the cashier because you play a certain role. You do certain things in the store, right? You take money, you give change, right? You make transactions, and that makes those actions make you a cashier, right? So hopefully you can follow where I'm going. Any is not NI. This should be pretty simple. Until you know who you are, you won't know what to do, right? And so what Ikram was saying at the beginning, where infodoms are always having an identity crisis, would necessarily lead to a lack of action, right? If you don't know who you are, how could you know what to do? And so what Ikram was saying is, infodoms are over-processing the info, would lead to what Dave and Shan are saying, which is they don't get any shit done. That's not surprising, because until you know who you are, you can't know what to do. Until you know what role you play in the world, you're not going to know what to do. I hope you guys can hear me, because I know there's a lot of background noise and shit. But now, I guess let's flip to the energy doms. There's a deep implication here, right? So what this means is energy doms probably mistakenly assume who they are, right? They just assume, oh, I'm this identity. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, right? But they start doing actions because they're like, look, I already know who I am. But the problem with that is, much like with anything, there's a balance. If you're mistaken about your identity, then that leads to the infodom crash, right? Where someone comes up and tells you, hey, dude, you're not actually that. So let's go back to the store analogy, for example. Let's say someone comes in to the store. They ask you who you are. You say, I'm a baker. And you're trying to do all the things. You're doing all the things, the TE things. And then someone later comes up to you and is like, hey, dude, we did not hire you to be a baker. We hired you to be a cashier. What the fuck are you doing back here? Like, on top of that, you don't even know how to do it well. Let me guess. If your consume last year didn't even hear that shit, right? One. So that's the imbalance. You're gonna be like, no, I blaster shitted out the things, and that makes me a baker, right? Okay, whatever. And then people are gonna disappear on you. Or if you're blast, I mean, I guess the opposite would be, hey, I know my identity, but I don't really need to do anything, right? I could just be this identity by virtue of me saying I'm a baker. And people are looking at you like, no, like the blast last would be more like someone hired you to be a baker, and now you have the title of a baker. But then when you walk into the store, there's no food, and people are like, yo, where's the food at? We hired you to do a job. They're like, no, I'm a baker, like I'm fine. No, we hired you to do some shit, okay? So anyway, the moral of the story, let me wrap it up, clean it up. Identity or roles, right? The role you play in the world, that is what determines what actions you take, right? The actions you take, if I flip it, the actions you take prove that you are a certain identity by definition, right? So in the same way, there are roles in the world, and infodoms don't know what their role is in some sense, right? Either you're play and you literally don't know, so you're asking everyone, or you're sleep, right? And you're play last, and you think you know your identity, but you're still kind of confused as to how you want to manifest that. Meanwhile, people are looking at you like, yo, you're fucking crazy. And then what energy doms are doing is that they're so confident in their identity that they're either blaster overdoing shit, right? Or they're consume and they're like, look, I'm this identity. You hired me to be the baker, and so pay me now. And people are like, yo, that's cute, but you need to do things to be that, right? So hopefully that makes sense. I think this reconciles what Ikram was saying at the beginning, really what both of them were saying, Ikram and Uzair, with what David Chen was saying, because there was a miscommunication initially, but I do think that that they're saying the same thing on a deeper level, which is kind of more fundamental. So hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully the audio is good. I know it looked like crap, right? It's okay. That's okay. All right. We'll SF this in a year, you know? But anyway, hope you guys are doing well. And I hope you have a great weekend. Some more videos are on the way. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.